Hey family, I hope you guys are doing great. This video is going to be entertaining for a change. One of those things that shows you exactly what's going on, and sometimes, yes, there are coincidences, but it's hard to say that everything here is a coincidence. And I'm going to talk about something we haven't covered since about a year ago when we looked into the insane predictive programming from back in the 1800s. It's obvious there's a plan in motion and that the powers that shouldn't be are all working together cohesively. Even though on the news it looks like everyone's enemies and hates each other, there is definitely something going on, and it's strange. And for those of you who have never seen this before, I'll break it down real quick. There's a book from the 1800s called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, and it's about time travel. And of course the Baron Trump in the book looks a lot like Baron Trump, President Trump's son. And so you have a lot of people going, oh my gosh, time travel and all of that. And it is weird. It almost makes that stuff seem possible, especially when you get into the connections, because the sequel to the book, even though the original book with Baron Trump, I forgot to mention, had a mentor named Don that he looked up to. Little Baron with a mentor named Don. And the sequel to the book 4 years later, called The Last President, if you can believe that, I'm sure you can. This is not something that's been disproven. This is actually a book, or two books, and they exist. But it's about a very wealthy man in New York, and he lives on 5th Avenue, running for president, but wasn't expected to win. Okay? And that's, if you don't know 5th Avenue, that's where Trump Tower is today. Okay? 664 feet. You don't know why they didn't add the extra couple inches. They probably did afterwards, after the dimensions were taken. But the inauguration was done. Don started picking people for his cabinet, and of course he chose a man by the name of Pence. Seriously, not making this up. You guys can investigate this. We've covered this before. But what I found that kind of started getting more into the, they time travel type of nonsense is due to the fact that Dr. John G. Trump, if you don't know him, that's Donald Trump's uncle, was one of the people who took in the property of the deceased Nikola Tesla. Again, this stuff is not conspiracy stuff. This is actually true, documented stuff. It's well known. I didn't know about this, but you look into it, you'll find out it's true. And when you look into those documents, he pretty much ends by saying there was really nothing of concern, nothing that would be a threat to our security if another country got a hold of it. Of course, everything's for our safety. And that was the end of it. Don't really know what technology he had, but later, after doing all this, he becomes known for his genius discoveries with the high voltage energy type of stuff right here. Like you see this giant phallic symbol or whatever this is, this coil here. That's Dr. John Trump here. And they are of German ancestry, and where that plays into the equation is quite interesting when you see that the name that he goes by, Baron Trump, is coming from this name here, Wilhelm Heinrich, however you say that, Sebastian von Trump, commonly called Little Baron Trump. Well, what is this name right here? Well, it's German for William. It's German for the name William. So you have Little Baron Trump, or Wilhelm Heinrich Sebastian von Trump. But William is a German name. Not too weird, but look what Baron's middle name is. I kid you not. Baron William Trump. A lot of people have talked about this, but it just, going over it again, it's like, did I miss that the first time? I don't know. Maybe I did. But that's what that little portrait of in the book is that person. And his name is Baron William Trump. So freaky. And I was looking at pictures of Trump, Baron Trump. I just typed in his name. And I have no clue, because honestly, I don't watch the news. I don't follow politics. To me, I feel like it's just watching a reality show is what it is, a scripted reality show. But you have someone here who's 6'3", and then a 14-year-old kid. He looks like he towers over his dad. He's only 14, I believe. Could be wrong. But look how tall he is. He's got to be like 6.5 feet tall already at 14, maybe taller. I thought maybe it was perspective, even though he was on the far side, should have made him look shorter. And then another picture, still looks like he's towering over his dad. I mean, he's huge. But where it gets strange is when you look into what this book is talking about, and it's talking about portals, demons, and giants. Portals, demons, and giants. Okay? So when you look, let's go back. This is later on. They just give summaries. I haven't read this book. I don't plan on reading it. If you have that time and interest, it's fine. I'll leave some links to the PDF in the description, but I'd rather read the Bible and focus on that. But this is just something that I'm about to get to in a minute that will just really kind of is what blew my mind and got me looking into this again. But it summarizes some of the things here, the chapters. So here it says, we made our way northward in search of the portals to the world within. And I think they even call it like the underworld or something like that. I'll have to find that and look through. But think about the world within up north. And when I had somebody translate that old map, I need to put that video out, but the audio needs some fixing. So I've been procrastinating with that for months now. However, the person who translated it, that ancient map that was an actual explorer documenting things, talked about people, when you look at the North Pole, what it says, living pretty much underground, like the civilization of little people. They call them pygmies or something. Reminds me of the whole Satan Claus or Santa Claus narrative. Sees when you've been good or bad, and he's got little helpers and all that nonsense, that stuff that we were programmed to teach our children, those lies of the evil one that are really designed to take people further from the Father, because once they realize they've been deceived by you, they lose trust, and then they question you about the other Father who actually loves them, cares about them, and has similar powers to the Satan Claus. It really does rob them a lot. Okay, so be careful teaching your children things. Don't teach them things like that. That's a whole other subject in itself. But it was weird to me to see that this writer who's put all these pieces together seems to, almost like the Simpsons, knows the plan. Talks about portals, demons, and giants. Biblical stuff. But chapter 1 in this book is what caught my attention. Someone on Facebook made a connection to this, but it talks about the election night. Tuesday, November 3rd, 1896, and that was an actual election date. There are several elections that happen on November 3rd. All of them happen on Tuesdays, so it's not like they're predicting anything weird with that. But Tuesday, November 3rd, the city staggered under the blow like a huge ocean liner which plunges full speed with terrific crash into a mighty iceberg. This was before Titanic. Pretty sure Titanic came after this. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this was written before the Titanic sank. Not that that never happened. Not that there was never ships crashing into icebergs. I'm sure that happened quite a bit. But it gets weird. A president was elected, and this was before the election this book was written, I think. So it was all like theoretical of what was going to happen. Now, people became in an uproar, rushed out of their houses and all that. Let's scroll down and see where it gets interesting. It says, in less than half an hour, mounted policemen dashed through the streets calling out, keep within your houses, close your doors, aka quarantine yourselves and barricade them. So yelling out, stay inside. The entire east side is in a state of uproar. Mobs of vast sizes are organizing under the lead of anarchists, there's Antifa, and socialists, and threaten to plunder and despoil the houses of the rich who have wronged and oppressed them for so many years. All that oppression. Keep within doors. Extinguish all lights. So that whole mobs of anarchists going on Taco Tuesday, November 3rd, Election Day. You guys have seen Lego Movie. I might put that little clip up there at the end. It's kind of funny that it talks about never, just ignore the sun being blacked out, follow orders, or we'll have you put to sleep. It's one of those little scenes that they put in that cartoon that my wife said, it's funny that the election is happening on Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, kind of like in the movie. But that was really weird. But that's not where it stops. When you read on a couple pages later, it talks about Fifth Avenue. Remember, Fifth Avenue, Trump Tower. The Fifth Avenue Hotel will be the first to feel the fury of the mob. What? Would the troops be in time to save it? If this happens on election day, come back to this video and be like, what's going on? That'd be interesting. The hotel on Fifth Avenue, Trump Tower, Fifth Avenue. What is Trump Tower used for? Let's look it up. Well, strangely enough, when you research it, you find out that it has condominiums on 39 of the floors above the office floors. So not really considered a hotel, but in a sense, it's like a hotel. Condominiums, almost the same thing. Back then, I don't know if they called them condominiums in the late 1800s, but I found that intriguing that the Fifth Avenue Hotel would be the first place to feel the fury of the mob. Don't know about you guys. I just feel like we're living in this scripted reality. Some people are falling for it. Some people are awake to it. Seems that more people are waking up to it. But man, it's hard to wake some of them up from their deep sleep, no matter how many coincidences we have. But I talked about the spiritual warfare of this. I want to get into that. We talked about Dr. John Trump over there that was related to him. Seeing all this reminded me of this guy here, Mr. Relativity, that pays tribute to Helios, the sun gods they all worship. I know aliens do not exist in the sense that we've been programmed to believe. There are powers of darkness at work deceiving all of us and ruling over us in secret with whatever puppets they have. And I remembered, it seems like years and years ago, reading about him being on some sort of top secret Area 51 documents, and I couldn't remember exactly what I read, but I know that the wisdom of the fallen was involved with whatever alleged discoveries this guy had. He's just, again, another puppet to take credit for stuff, and we're programmed to believe he's some super genius. But when I was looking into that document, I found something that I can't verify for real, that it's authentic. It kind of has that look like the declassified NASA documents from around the same time period, as well as like those Russian documents and stuff that speak of the firmament. But it's supposed to be from him and a man by the name of Oppenheimer, talking about the relationships with inhabitants of celestial bodies. I always thought it was celestial. And it talks about that, but it gets weird, really weird. It says here, I'll just read some of it. Relationships with the extraterrestrial men presents no basically new problem from the standpoint of international law, but the possibility of confronting intelligent beings, and this is not talking about aliens, this is talking about demons. You can replace this word with demons. But the possibility of confronting intelligent beings, demons, whose solution it is difficult to conceive. In principle, there is no difficulty in accepting the possibility of coming to an understanding with them and of establishing all kinds of relationships, which they've already done that. The difficulty lies in trying to establish the principles in which these relationships should be based. In the first place, it would be necessary to establish communication with them through some language or other, and afterwards, as a first condition for all intelligence, that they should have a psychology similar to that of men. At any rate, international law should make place for a new law on a different basis. And it might be called the N followed by the W and then that O. You guys know what I'm talking about. I don't want the Wikipedia thing to put anything under my video, but international law should make place for a new law on a different basis. This was before the Antarctic Treaty and the UN taking over and making all of what we have now, and why we're all so in sync. Now we're realizing that that NW followed by the O was actually going on not something that would be happening in the future. It was already going on. We just didn't know it yet. We figured it out now. Now it's too late, and the whole world's doing the same thing at the same time. And we're like, oh, wait a minute. It was already in place. So it says here, and it might be called Law Among Planetary Peoples, following the guidelines found in the word here that I couldn't remember what it was or really how to pronounce it, but I've seen it before. The Pentateuch, however you say it, Pentateuch. I was like, what is that? And I asked my wife. Of course, she is far smarter than I am, and she reminded me it talks about the 5 books of Moses. Why would it talk about the 5 books of Moses in one of these documents talking about aliens? Because they're not aliens. These interdimensional beings, they call them, the demons. That's what it's talking about. That's what we're up against. The stuff in Revelation, the warnings from 2 Thessalonians, these unclean spirits like frogs going around that are deceiving world leaders, that are in turn deceiving the world. This stuff is nothing to joke around with. I know this is kind of a lighthearted, funny, sort of conspiracy type of video, but I do believe if this document is authentic and what they were talking about, where Einstein got his wisdom of the fallen, why there's so many strange things happening right now, why the Georgia Guidestones had the date 2014 put in them, and they are using the Julian calendar most likely, just like the Mayans that were sun god worshippers who had the world predicted to end the way that it was in 2012. And according to the Julian calendar, of course, right now, that's what year it is. A lot of stuff going on that is a plan. There was a pact made centuries ago by the fallen to carry out a certain mission. To hide the truth about creation is a small part of that plan. They did it really well. They've devoted all sorts of money to it because money is not important to them. I would like to look into what this says now. I'm kind of curious. But just be careful. Understand this is not about time travel. The whole alien deception probably will happen, looking into all this stuff and what they've been pushing. But there's going to be some crazy stuff happening before that does. You can guarantee it. And the election day, probably going to be weird. I don't know what's going to happen. We have our meetup planned for right after that time. If they were to close everything down and all that, have to have it at my house. Unless they start shutting down borders, then it'll be limited to just people from over here in this state. Hope that doesn't happen. I look forward to meeting so many of you guys. But interesting stuff. The connections are just so crazy. I had to look into this even further. And when I do, it gets the wheels turning and you start looking at other things. And I had to stop. I was like, I know I could keep finding more stuff, and I probably will after I make this video. But the 6 pages where they talked about the 5 books of Moses right here, it just, to me, there's no way this is a coincidence. This could be a fabricated document. Again, when I looked for the debunked stuff, I couldn't find anything that said, oh yeah, somebody made this in their basement or whatever. So I don't know. I'm not claiming this is authentic. It could be one of those things where people are laughing like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. It's been debunked. I see it on a bunch of UFO websites and stuff, but that's where they want it to be. No clue of its origins, but allegedly it was written by, and I'll scroll down to the bottom so you can see. It's only 6 pages, they said, but it looks like more than 6. By Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer, the Director of Advanced Studies, Princeton, New Jersey, and Professor Albert Einstein, Princeton, New Jersey. So, haven't read the whole document yet. Looks like there's a signature here. I could try to look and see if that is his actual signature or one of theirs. That looks like JR or JB. I really can't tell. So, I have to look into that. If this is authentic, this is really talking about something that I can't believe is just right here in documents. But I'll read a little further. It says, obviously, the idea of revolutionizing international law to the point where it would be capable of opening with new situations would compel us to make a change in its structure, a change so basic that it would no longer be international law. This is to say, as it is connected today, but something altogether different, so that it could no longer bear the same name. We would not call it international law. So, interesting. They use the words intelligent beings, probably because they've been around since pre-flood, were in possession of a more or less culture and a more or less perfect political organization, they would have an absolute right to be recognized as independent and sovereign peoples. What? We would have to come to an agreement with them. No, we wouldn't. Not if we stand for the Father. These things have no jurisdiction where we are. To establish them legal regulation upon which future relationships should be based, and it would be necessary to accept many of their principles. It would be necessary to accept many of their principles, like what actually happened in the 60s with the do as thou wilt mentality that took over from Aleister Crowley. Wow. If this is a real document, guys, this is very telling of what's been going on. Finally, if they should reject all peaceful cooperation and become an imminent threat to the earth, dry land, we would have the right to legitimate defense, but only insofar as would be necessary to annul this danger. Another possibility may exist that a species of Homo sapiens might have established themselves as an independent nation on another celestial body in our solar system and evolved culturally independently from ours. This is just crazy. If you guys want to read it, you can. They're losing me with this stuff. On these bodies, let's say the moon or the planet Mars would have to be such as to permit a stable, to a certain extent, independent life from economic standpoint. Much has been speculated. He might have been deceived to believe you could go land on the moon and stuff. Who knows? About the possibilities for life existing outside of our atmosphere and beyond. This is all put here, I'm sure, to make us view these entities as aliens. They want you to find this stuff. They want it to end up on these alien websites, and full disclosure is coming. Let's figure this stuff out. That's all it is. It's more deception. So don't get entangled up in this little document here thinking it's talking about real aliens. It's not. And it's just strange stuff. So weird, crazy turns. Didn't plan on this video being this long, but I wanted to cover all of that. Try to see if I missed anything. What's definitely on that cover of that book, I forgot to point out the little alien looking person. It's a person. Kind of looks like one of those interdimensional beings with the weird shaped eyes. Although the artist did have a weird drawing style, so it could have been based on that. But there's just so many connections, almost too many coincidences. The addresses, the names, the fact that it's the last president, Bible talks about it, the last Trump. Greater times to follow all this madness for those of us who are ready. But I saw this is what got my wheels turning when I saw somebody post this November 3rd, and of course the election's on November 3rd. That's what got me looking into that. But riots, probably going to go after Trump Tower. Again, coincidence? We'll see when November 3rd gets here. Who knows what's going to happen. Watching this movie unfold is kind of interesting for some, dividing many. Don't let it divide you. I've seen the enemy's game with this left versus right divide so many people, and that's the goal, divide and conquer. That's why there's thousands of denominations, thousands of different translations of a certain text that's banned in more places than I've ever seen any other book banned that's alleged to be a fairy tale. It's not. There is power in the truth. There's power when you go out and look up. And that's what they're trying to stop us for, looking up and uniting. I'm going to leave it at that. Look up, seek, you'll find. It'll be revealed to you guys. I thank you for keeping us in your prayer. You guys are a huge blessing to our family, our truth family. I've been sent the best, and I thank the Father for you guys always. And I thank you for sticking with us. If we make errors, pointing it out, keeping us in check. That's why you guys are here. And you guys have no clue how much you have impacted my life. So hopefully when we unite, we can all talk about this stuff in this life or the one to come. So love you guys. See you around. Take care. Stay safe and stay ready.